Hey everyone, it's Sheriden, and in this video I'll be guiding you through the second encounter found within the new Operation Explosive Conflict. First of all, you're going to want the following setup: 2 tanks, 2 healers and 4 DPS. This encounter involves 2 bosses, which are basically military vehicles, as you can see here. One is named Firebrand, who sits on the left from where you enter, and the second is named Stormcaller, who's on the right. They cannot be moved around, however their upper body turrets can rotate to whoever has aggro of them. For this fight, you will want to split up your raid into 2 groups, a tank, a healer and 2 DPS. Have each group focus on one of the 2 bosses. During phase 1, you will need to position all of your raid members on top of the vehicle's body, like this. The reason will become clear in a second as I go over the main mechanics. Throughout the fight, bombs will be fired towards random areas of the ground around the 2 bosses. You'll be able to identify this by the red circle markings animating upon the ground. By having most of your raid positioned on top of the vehicles, you can avoid most of this mechanic. The only time you'll really need to watch out for it is the movement between phase 1 and 2. Of course, the player you have on the ground will still need to move out of them or risk taking damage. So, let's explain why that one lucky guy has to be there in the first place. Well, the first reason is because of Stormcaller's lightning generators mechanic. Stormcaller will drop electrical devices upon a random target. When the devices land, they form a large blue bubble that, when stood in, deal periodic damage to those caught inside. This ability currently prioritizes targets that are on the ground, rather than those on top of the bosses. By having only one raider deal with the mechanic, you save yourself a big DPS loss and possible additional damage. If your player on the ground dies, the ability will be cast on someone on top of the bosses instead. So make sure you pick someone who's quick on their feet, not only due to these first 2 mechanics, but also because of the next one as well. The third mechanic that they'll need to avoid is the target missile ability. A yellow marking will be placed upon them, and after about 5 seconds, the mark will drop off onto the floor where they were currently stood. A barrage of missiles will then land at that position and deal massive damage. So, your player downstairs is going to have to move out of blue, red and yellow colours. I don't envy their job. Ideally, you're going to want to pick a healer to do this, because obviously both tanks are currently occupied, and you need your DPS to beat the enrage timer. Each of the bosses also have their own frontal cleave. Firebrand's animation will shoot a spread of rockets, while Stormcaller sends out a blue energy pulse. Your tanks will need to position the turrets away from the raid, so they do not take damage from either of these attacks. However, Stormcaller's tank will have to spin the turret around to his group when he starts casting the ability named Double Destruction. You can identify it by both the blue glow and the cast bar. By turning him to face the raid, the ability will be absorbed by the DPS and stop the tank from getting a dangerous debuff. Firebrand will also cast his own similar ability named Incinerate Armor. This ability will put a debuff upon the tank, making him take increased damage. In story mode you can heal through it, but really, you should just have your tanks switch the bosses to avoid the extra damage and possible tank death. That's everything involved in the phase 1 of this fight. However, there is a brief phase 2, which starts when the bosses cast defensive systems. At this point, 5 adds will jump down into the fight, 3 to the left of Firebrand and 2 to the right of Stormcaller. Each of the groups will need to move themselves to where the adds spawn, as the enemy will place an orange shield to defend themselves from the boss's incoming attacks. Your raid must move to hide under them as well. Only one person will stay outside of these shields, and that is Stormcaller's current tank. They will be targeted by his phase 1 ability, Lightning Generators. However, it will be a much quicker speed than previously. Therefore, the tank will need to keep running to stay out of the blue bubbles, while making sure that they do not move out of range or sight of their healer. While this is going on, your DPS should be single target killing the adds. Do not use any AoE attacks, as the shield will actually be a targetable enemy as well. If you kill it, you'll probably wipe. Once the adds are dead, the attacks will stop and you'll be able to go back to phase 1. When you're about to kill the bosses, I'd suggest killing Stormcaller first, rather than Firebrand, but generally try to kill them at the same time. They'll explode and you'll get a nice chest of loot as a reward. That's it for this guide. I'll be bringing you the other bosses as soon as possible, so make sure you're subscribed and you won't miss them. If you found this video helpful, then feel free to give it a thumbs up and comment below. Happy raiding everyone!